GCOM finds, as I think they ought to find, that there are so many anomalies that it brings into question the credibility of the elections, then I should think that GCOM should declare the elections null and void.
Earlier on Monday, Public Relations Officer of GCOM, Yolanda Ward, at a press conference related that the Chief Immigration Officer indicated that based on a list of persons sent to him by the chairperson, 172 of the 207 persons on the list were out of Ghana on Elections Day. The Commission could not, however, verify whether a number of persons found to be out of the country on March 2, 2020, Elections Day, had actually been ticked off as having voted. Meanwhile, Dr. Hinds is of the view that a bloated voters list is at the helm of the electoral anomalies, and also reminded that the election results is not solely based on numbers, but more importantly, the process by which it was conducted.
The bloated voters list, I think, is at the heart of the anomalies that we are seeing. Now, if the voters list is not credible, then you are not going to get credible elections. And looking back, I think that was a big mistake that was made when we agreed on all sides, including GCOM, to go to an election with a bloated list. And that bloated list became the dangerous weapon, quote unquote, in the hands of those who wanted to steal the election even before election day. So we've got to ensure that there's a credible voters list, and then we have to look at the other anomalies and try to close those holes and close those gaps. The entire electoral machinery needs to be overhauled. The revelation calls into question the credibility of the election. Often we think about elections in terms of the outcomes, that is, the votes that are counted in the boxes. But equally important, and perhaps more important, is the process by which the votes got into the boxes. And this is where I think this revelation by the public relations officer comes into question clearly, as some of us have been arguing. Our elections in Guyana have historically had a problem of credibility, and what we are seeing here is playing out before our very eyes. The methods that have been used over the years, and certainly in this election, to affect what goes into the boxes and ultimately the outcome of the elections.
The political scientist believes that an interim government comprising the two major political parties, as well as smaller parties, should be put in place, while the electoral process is revamped and political players formulate strategies to move the country forward in the best interest of its people.
I think we should have an interim government. I'm glad you used that term. I think we should have an interim government. And I know some people are going to say the present government should remain there. I disagree with that. I think once the elections are vitiated, we should have an interim government made up of representatives of the two major political parties and perhaps the smaller parties. Of course, that would be incumbent on the PPP to agree. I think if we listen to what the leader of the coalition, Mr. Granger, has been saying, he's reaching out. He said even if he's declared the winner, he would want to engage the PPP to have them in a government of national unity. And I think if the elections is vitiated, I think it opens up the possibility for us to begin to practice shared government. And so I think it should be an interim government made up of the two political parties, like I said, and the other political parties while we do the repairing. I think you can't go wrong with that, because what we are doing, we are fighting over the prize. And if we can begin to share the prize, then the fight over the prize will decrease considerably. And what better way to do it than now, when we are in crisis and we don't know what is going to happen tomorrow. We have the pandemic, and then we have the simmering political tensions. Guyana can ill afford an explosion at this time, as we are seeing in the United States of America, for example. And so therefore, if our leaders can sit down and agree to repair the electoral machinery, while at the same time having in place an interim government where they begin to practice how to share the burdens of governance in our country.
Reporting for HGP Nightly News, I am Wendell Badrie.